Welcome to The Short Answer, and I am so looking forward to diving in and working with this type of thing and being able to connect with you all over the world. It's kind of an amazing concept for us. We've been having the master class here at the center for a long time, and it's a community thing that people get to come in together. They bring their questions, and we tie them all together and roll out with an hour-long conversation. So what we're doing here is shifting that focus a little bit so that we can connect for just a few minutes, and then we'll take a short break, and then we can come back to our hour-long class. So this is The Short Answer, and it is a great joy to be here. We're in the middle of snow time in Indiana, and we just got dumped on a bunch of snow this past 24 hours, and so we have a very small, intimate group here with you, and we know there are quite a few of you plugging in from all over the world, so welcome to sharing some wonderful time together, right? Hopefully this will just be an organic process that gets to touch you and move you with some concepts that matter in life. Tonight's topic is about self-love. I probably get more questions about how do I love myself and how do I learn to do this. I know that it's really important, and I need to know when I'm doing it. I need to know how I know when I'm doing that and how I know when I'm not so much. And so I wanted to take an opportunity of this first time that we're together to really talk about just some brief things that we can do and to really kind of anchor that for ourselves. As self-love is really the only thing that actually is real, the only thing that will actually ever be true in your reality, in your entire lifetime, is the amount of love that you experience. And the degree to which you can anchor that as including you in the equation is the degree to which you will experience the freedom that you are intended to experience in your life. So what's that mean? That sounds pretty intense and pretty important. How on earth do I live up to that? How do I make sure that that's happening? And it's a pretty amazing concept, really. And one of the things that I want to remind you of is that you're born in that state. So the good news is you've already been there once, all right? And you're made of love. And so anything that you can do to return to that basic core essence of the truth of who you are is going to be of benefit to you, to cracking the code for this self-love concept. So keeping this in mind, you were born in a state of self-love, and you were a bright-eyed, glowing, beaming little infant who became a glowing little toddler who anyone and everyone approached was offering them the light that you are. You watch it. When an adult approaches an infant, a baby in a bassinet, or someone in a pumpkin seat, they light up. And the reason is because the energy coming off of that infant is so close to that purity that it can't help but pull that purity out of us when we engage. And what we know is that what begins to happen is we engage in life. We start learning how to crawl. We are now in the danger zone because we can walk around and find bright, shiny things to pick up and bang together and all kinds of things. So what that equates to is that we end up feeling, experiencing, hearing that we're in trouble, that we're doing the wrong thing, that we're not supposed to do that, we're not supposed to pick up the bright, shiny things, we're supposed to leave them where mom put them. And instead, we are all about the adventure and all about the exploration. Well, when we start getting in trouble and we start hearing the no's and we start getting that thing going, we move from living in our core, which is where self-love resides. So if you're looking for a location, like where do I find my self-love, it's in here, okay? It's not out there, it's not up here, it's in here. So when you are moving from that state of knowing that you're just you, being you, and in fact you're not even aware of that, you're just being you. There's no self-consciousness, it's just free and clear. And when you begin to engage in the world and you start doing things differently than the big people want you to do them, You start hearing no, don't do that, screaming at you when you start to cross the street and, so on. It's all for the purpose of saving your life and trying to teach you how to live in society, but we don't know that at the time. We just know, whoa, if I'm not supposed to be who I am, really, then who am I supposed to be, really? Who am I if I'm not me? So we jump up into our heads and try to figure out what I'm supposed to do to please the big people. How do I keep them to continue to feed me and to clothe me? And, it starts working. So actually our ability to manipulate starts at a very early age. Now the good news is we end up continuing to be fed and to continuing to be clothed, and things work out pretty well. The not so good news is that we jump up into our heads and we tend to stay there. We tend to live there. And the problem with that is we build an identity there. In fact, we build a life there. And we build relationships there. We build a perception of what life is all about there. We build an identity of who we are in the world and what I have to do in order for people to engage with me or to love me, and so on. We choose our careers. We choose our relationships. All of it comes from this idea of who I'm supposed to be rather than this feeling of who I really am. So after we live life there for a while, it starts to become super stressful because that is a very limited reality based upon the context of our wholeness. It is a very thin part of us. Those of you that have ever seen my Energy Man drawing, you will know that I'm talking about the mental body and the emotional body, and basically those are the protective personality layers that we develop in order to cope in the world. So when we're feeling inadequate and we're feeling that we don't measure up and that things don't go the way that we want them to, and we start to get down on ourselves and start to think that we're not enough and start to think that I should be different than I am, the fact is, it's true. Now that's kind of a funky thing to say. If you're feeling like you're not enough, I got to tell you, it's true. Because the only part of you that would ever think that you're not enough is the illusionary protective personality version of you, which is very limited relative to who you really are. You really are this plus all of this. You are the core, you are your heart space, you are your internal wisdom, you are your personal version of God's source energy in a body. And if you're identified only with that thin layer of personality, that protective shell that we've created over the course of our lives, if we think that's who we are, you better believe that's not enough, and it never will be. So the next time you feel yourself feeling or thinking, I just really feel like I don't measure up, just say, you know what, it's true, you don't. So how do you? How can you? Well, you have to shift gears a little bit. You have to drop into your core from living in your head, because the you that thinks that is right, and the you that can agree with it is the rest of you, and that's the one I want to bring to the party. That is the one that I'm interested in you getting to know. So, okay, sounds good. How now? Immediately, how do I start to do that is usually what people say at this point. So let's say that. Let's say, okay, I get it. When I'm feeling inadequate or feeling unloved or feeling insufficient, if I say to myself, only my ego, you see, that's what I'm really talking about, but people don't like to think that they have an ego, and only the ego would like to not have an ego, and so only the ego would deny that it exists, so you're onto it. You get me? All right? So what we have to do is realize that there is a part of me that exists way underneath that is strong and clear and full and whole, and that's what I have to get to know. It isn't about getting rid of what I don't want to be. It isn't about, I got to get out of my head, I got to get out of my head, I got to get out of my head. Because your conscious mind and your subconscious mind, which we'll talk about later in the master class, they don't know anything other than the impulse that you're giving them. That's all they know. So if you're talking about inadequacy, they're doing everything, the subconscious is doing everything that it can do to prove that, to validate it, to have that be true, to manifest that for you. So what we have to do is really get into what is true for me. What is the real me? Who is that? Where is it? How do I find it and feel it? It's very simple to do. It's so simple the mind would never think of it. The mind would never think that something so simple could make such a profound difference in my life. And yet, it will be very soothed to know that it's true. So right now, I'm going to invite you to take an imaginary hug right in the center of your chest with the tissues that are surrounding the center of you, the core of you. And when you do so, you're squeezing the heart. And then there is a space below that. at the base of the pelvic bowl, all the way down at the tip of your spine. And what we want to do is start to invite the energies from your head down into your heart space, down into your core, and allow them to begin to flourish. To draw this energy and anchor it down in the core will allow you to move out of your head, and most importantly, it will allow you to move into a loving state. So there are muscles in the base of the pelvic bowl, right around the tip of the spine, and the invitation is for you to contract them. If you contract them right now, it's kind of like squeezing the sphincter muscles and the muscles around the bladder and just squeezing in there. It's kind of like a Kegel exercise, if you're familiar with that. And basically what it is a contraction and a kind of an uplifting in the base of the pelvic bowl. So if you squeeze this, it's a concept called Mula Bandha, okay? It's a pretty, it's a big concept, but we can go right to it for just a moment and squeeze this Mula Bandha. It means root lock. We can squeeze this root chakra lock and lock down our energies. It's kind of like tethering a helium balloon, okay? You have to pull it down and tie it steady so that you are anchored not just in your head, but moving the energies down into your body. Automatically, it filters them through a different vibratory frequency, and they begin to cause you to interpret life differently. They begin to cause you to filter the circumstances, the impulses, the stimuli that come in. The whole system begins to process it through much more of a grounded vibration. And it works its way into the vibration of love. Okay? So you've got this Mula Bandha going on. You're squeezing that. I want you to just give it a squeeze, all right? It's just us, okay? Just give it a squeeze. Give it everything you've got. And then squeeze it with everything you got. And then relax that by 1/2. Just kind of, okay, relax that by 1/2. But don't release it all together. And you're going to keep it squeezed. Now I want you to do the same thing in your heart. Like squeeze your heart center. Here. Not your heart muscle, but your heart center. It's a chakra center. So your shoulder blades kind of come together and down, and your pectoralis muscles kind of squeeze in. And from the right side, you pull in, and from the left side, you pull in. And you just make it tight. Just give it a hug. Hug it so much on the inside that you could actually relax the pectoralis muscles or the back muscles, and you could still feel that you were keeping something contracted there. Okay? That is in the right direction. That's close to what we're talking about, okay? This is a mechanical exercise that then has to be enhanced by the feeling of love. We have to generate that feeling, but we want to have that generated feeling of love exist down in our bodies, not just swirling around in the room or swirling around in our heads. So I want you to think about something that you adore, something that you cherish, something that has so much deep meaning to you that it moves you when you think of it. Something that lights you up, something that brings up great joy in you. It might be your children, it might be your beloved, it might be your pets, your animals, your dog, your cat. Whatever the case may be, there's something that really will light you up if you really allow yourself to drop down in and visit it. And the right use of your imagination will allow you to visit that anytime. Now, imagine that. Put the image of that right up in front of you and look at it and feel what it is that you feel when that is present. And now turn up the volume on the inside of you. Turn up the volume on the feeling that you're feeling when you think about this image. Turn it up so much that the image starts to pale in your presence of the feeling that you're feeling. Now, keep that feeling magnified. Keep it accentuated. And now, double it, right? So we're really getting intense here. Now, fill the room with it. Just emanate it, beam it, fill the room with it. Now, say to yourself, that's for me. For me. I'm having all of that for me. And what this equates to is an energy will drop right into your core where this Mula Bandha and squeezing the heart exist because you're activating them. And you're allowing this vibration that you've generated to be received by you. So you're creating it and you're receiving it. And that's about as unconditional as it gets. So when I say to you at some point in our future conversations, focus on the feeling of being unconditionally, undeniably loved. That is self-love. Focus on the feeling, the experience that you have in that, under those circumstances. And in that, what you will have been generating is unconditional love. People sometimes will say, I don't know what unconditional love feels like. I've never been unconditionally loved. There was this, there was that, there was this circumstance, this condition, and yet you just created it. If you did the practice along with me, you've already generated. So we make it up. I promise, you've been making up all the pain all along. I promise, at the end of the day, we have a conclusion that we know to be true, that there is only one thing happening here, and it is good. And it's our job to figure out how to align to that goodness. And as we implement simple practices like this, we get to feel our unconditionality. We get to feel our empowerment, and we get to bring it to life through this body in this lifetime without waiting for someone to deliver it for us from the outside. So self-love, it's a lot more simple. It might seem a little mechanical to you at first, so be it. Allow it to generate a new circuitry in the brain and a new pathway in the electromagnetic energy system that flows through your body, and allow it to become a new familiarity that you do every day. Because your subconscious will remember that, and it will no longer believe that you need to learn to love yourself, because it will be steeped in that very vibration itself. So hopefully this lands for you, and in a short period of time, we can visit a big picture like this, boil it down, and have something to work with every day. Now, that is what the short answer is about. It is here for you. So thank you so much for plugging in, for saying yes to yourself. And in just a few moments, we're going to start the master class, which is an hour-long free preview tonight that we'll be doing. So it starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you have any questions that you would like to ask for this class, in this class, I want to tell you a little something about how that class works. People come in from the community, they sit down, and they start raising their hand and asking questions. And I take notes on the questions, but I don't answer any of them. I just take a bunch of notes and lay it down. And then I answer all the questions together at the same time. I weave them together in an outpicturing, an example of the fact that there truly is only one thing happening here. And all the questions that we have tend to lead us into this illusion of separation and questioning life. But I'm always driving it back, or allowing it to come back, or stewarding it back into this one alignment that is you getting to know the truth of who you are. So the master class is about that. It's always fun, and it is always different, and I look forward to sharing that with you as well. There is a link on this page that you can click on if you want to register for that, and allow us to share the masterclass with you. And in addition to that, if you do have a question that you'd like for us to address, just email that question to social, like social media, social@drsuemorter.com. That's, I don't know how to spell it, but it's, I'm just kidding. drsuemorter.com, drsuemorter.com. Much love to you. Namaste.